The Secrets of Technology is brought to you by the StarQuest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit sqpn.com/give.
You're listening to The Secrets of Technology. Hi, I'm Dom Bettinelli, and you're listening to The Secrets of Technology, where we discuss the technology news that's important to you from a uniquely Catholic point of view. And joining me today on the panel are Joanne Mercier. Hi, Joanne.
Hi, Dom.
And Father Andrew Kinstetter. Hi, Father Andrew.
Hello there. So
this week our main topic is an interesting one, and it kind of comes out of the news. The sky is falling, or at least parts of the sky are falling. You may have seen recently in the news that there was this Chinese rocket, and it was falling. They just launched it, and it was in an unstable orbit, and it was going to deorbit and come down somewhere between, the latitude of Chicago or Cleveland and the latitude of Argentina, somewhere in Argentina, in the world. And people were worried because that includes, most of the United States and that sort of thing. And there was a lot of concern, like, oh, what if it lands on us? What if we get hit? And so the big questions that were being asked are, what's the likelihood of something like this coming down? And why is this sort of thing coming down? Now, were either of you worried at all about this, concerned about where this rocket was going to land? Did this enter into your calculus?
No.
Not really. I was just concerned with the fact of why isn't somebody monitoring this thing and making it come in like, gee, NASA does all the time.
Right. So that's actually a big question. So apparently when rockets get sent up, they're supposed to, in most countries, like in most organizations like NASA, SpaceX, especially SpaceX, they control the return, right? They land it. But even for disposable rockets, they usually they have them as a controlled return. They have rockets on them. They have guidance computers, and they ditch them in the ocean. That's where they generally ditch them. Apparently, China doesn't do this. They just send it up and then let it deorbit. And hey, most of the planet's water anyway and uninhabited, so it's unlikely to hit anything. Which is a very typically, communist Chinese party attitude about things. That's what happens is they're dishing it. So this rocket, by the way, is helping build their new space station, which is supposed to go online next year. So that's one of the reasons why they're expecting to see more of this. But there's a lot of debris up in orbit, and the U.S. Space Command, now I guess it's the U.S. Space Force, their job is to track all of it. I mean, there are millions of bits from the size of a quarter up to giant rockets in orbit. I mean, it's like the dump up there. You just, at some point you're not gonna be able to, see the sky past it all. So what do you think about this? I mean, should there be regulation, international regulation? Should governments and private corporations be taking active steps to clear out space junk? What do you think about all this?
I would think so. Because I remember, I'm old enough to remember the dawn of space exploration. Yep. And I've always been fascinated with these huge rockets and how they get them up there since I was a child. And I would now, after all these years, I start to think, okay, how much leftover is rolling around? Is it going to become a ring like Saturn, or what can this do to us? And if it just keeps falling out of the sky, then who's monitoring it? And should somebody tell us where it's going to land somewhere? It's just what goes up must come down at some point. And I love NASA. They're very good at thinking about all these things and getting things down safely. But some of these new upstarts, is Elon Musk thinking of that? Given that Starlink, their new internet satellite system, has 14,000 satellites, I think it is, that are going to be up there. That's a lot of stuff that they have to keep track of and take care of and keep it from being a danger to people. Yeah, because you figure you've got the stuff that should be up there, the satellites, and then the stuff that shouldn't be up there, the parts that just kind of fall out and oops, the wrench just went flying away during my spacewalk. Right. That's all going to go somewhere too.
Now, the smaller stuff would burn up in the atmosphere. That's pretty certain. It's the bigger stuff we got to worry about. But the small stuff is still a danger to satellites and other things like astronauts in orbit, because even a small speck of dust hitting at, orbital speed, hitting something can be catastrophic. Mm-hmm. Father Corey, what about you? Do you worry about stuff falling out of space?
I would love to get Father Corey's take on this, but he's
sorry. Father Andrew.
Father Corey's usually here.
Yeah, he's usually
yes,
here. Sorry, Father Andrew. I was thinking of Montana and where there's missiles in Montana. But are there missile bases in Wyoming? I don't know that. I know mine is in North Dakota.
There's I think near Cheyenne there's an old one.
Okay.
So
anyway,
but, yeah,
Father Andrew's point of view on this would be interesting.
No, I totally agree. For some reason I keep having in my mind an analogy of just shooting off fireworks, and the notion that we have to be careful about doing that, because even shooting up fireworks, I remember shooting fireworks off on the ranch, and of course we would make sure we were far enough away from everyone, and then you'd have to kind of watch as some of that debris came down. And of course, if you're in a city, there's used fireworks stuff all over the street. But some of that stuff is on that kind of level, it's not super dangerous, but it could be. I mean, you could have a stray spark or something that starts a fire, so there is danger involved. And with the space stuff, it's just that, but so much more. I mean, if you have something like that fall out of orbit and not land in the ocean, it can cause so much more damage and so much more, take out human life even. So, there's a need for that to be controlled and a need for that to be in the minds of those who are shooting up these rockets. We have to, that's kind of just the whole principle of sharing this earth together and being brothers and sisters in the world, is that we have to kind of look out for our neighbors. And if I'm shooting a rocket up, and as long as it's not landing in my country, I'm fine with it, then we're not being, good neighbors. And, so there's definitely a need for that, some sort of a controlled,
re-entry, demolition. Yeah.
Right.
I wonder if they could build a satellite or, a rocket or satellite spacecraft that could travel through orbit and just sweep up stuff. It was like a big Roomba for the orbital Roomba.
Oh, geez. I thought about that.
That's kind of a crazy notion. But, in the hierarchy of things to worry about, in our risk matrix that we would build, how much concern should we put to stuff falling out of space compared to other risky things? Like random dangers to us. I mean, it feels like oftentimes with things like this, the media gets all excited and we have article after article about the Chinese rocket. And the fact is you're more likely to get hit by lightning than to get hit by a rocket falling out of space. And yet there are other things which happen much more often that we never worry about. But this is it's a rocket, so therefore it's more newsworthy.
Well, everybody's concept is that it's huge. So it's something that can take out a lot of things. But no, you're right. I mean, in the scheme of things, it's the lightning comparison. What's the difference? But I think I think there just needs to be some monitoring, since more and more is going up.
Yes.
And then that means more and more could come down when we don't want it to.
I think it's a key thing for the media to sensationalize, because it's exotic, it's unique. We're more likely to get into a car crash and die than we would by getting hit by space debris. And I wanted to bring this up too, is that we're I actually have no idea of statistics, but in February there was a United airline plane that
lost an engine or something.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly what it was, but it spewed debris over Broomfield, Colorado.
Wow.
And nobody got hurt, but there were it was a United flight with 231 passengers on board.
Ooh.
Yeah, and so it did make it back to Denver with just emergency powers as one of their engines blew out. So there are dangers like this, but even that is incredibly rare.
Yeah, it's less likely, like you said, than getting in a car accident and that sort of
Right.
thing. And that's one of the things I think about from a faith perspective is, you could worry about all kinds of things in life. Now, on the one hand, I don't want to test the spirit in the sense of, walk around in a daydream like, oh, God will protect me from everything because he loves me.
Right.
People die every day, right? It's like, and a lot of them die of dumb things. So and God loves them too. But there's also don't worry excessively about things that are unlikely. And I think we have become, as a people in general, really bad at assessing risk from various things. I remember Y2K having friends who were stockpiling, barrels of food, and they moved from the city out to the country because they didn't want to be when the purge happened. That's all that sort of stuff. And it's like the likelihood of that happening was extremely low, or when there's a shark attack at the beach in the summer, because it happens. But millions and millions of people go to the beach. How many people get attacked by a shark? It's just so low. And yet when there's things in life that are much more common risk, people are really blasé about it. Like, wearing a seatbelt when you're in your car, or that sort of thing. So I think this is part of that bigger question of how are we accurately assessing risk? Are we being too risky on some things and not risk averse enough on the right things? And are we drawing the line? I'm trying to say this correctly. Drawing the line correctly between trusting in God and taking God's protection for granted. And I think there's a line that you can be on either side of for that. And I think that, giant space rocket falling out of the sky is a fun way to introduce that topic. But that's really what this is about, is making solid decisions about what is risky and what isn't. What do you think?
I think some of that has to do with control.
Yep.
The smaller, riskier things are within our control, like wearing seatbelts. We can decide whether or not to wear them. Like going to the doctor, we can decide whether or not to go. But something falling out of the sky is totally out of our control. We can't stop it. So then that becomes a source of, for some people, not for me, but for some people, a worrisome thing. That's where in all of these things, God needs to be there. Doesn't matter whether it's a small risk or a big risk. God needs to be all there, because if not, you go pretty much crazy, which a lot of people, that's how come they have, sometimes too much anxiety, because everything is a worry.
Look at social media. It amplifies that sort of worry.
Yeah. What came to my mind was the quote that's from Padre Pio, the pray, hope, and don't worry.
Yes.
Worry is useless. God is merciful and will hear your prayer. We put our faith in God and we pray and we hope for the best, but worry just really it corrodes our own hearts and our own, ability to live. Mm-hmm. And some people, are unfortunately perhaps are have kind of more of the anxiety problems, and they are unable to see perhaps what is prudent. And I think that's where being members of the body of Christ can come into play. We have, the people around us, the experts who can kind of help guide us. And, it's kind of silly on one hand to just be worried about everything that you're not going to walk out your door, but some people, that is their experience, and they need some help breaking out of it. And that's where we can be, good stewards and good Christian brothers and sisters and reach out to our neighbors. On the flip side, we also can't be reckless. I'm often reminded in a lot of what I do is when talking about virtue in general, virtue is always the mean between the extremes. And so especially if we're going to talk about fortitude here, being courageous doesn't mean that you're brash or you're reckless. But it also doesn't mean that you just shy away from everything in cowardice. There's a balance there. And of course, finding that balance is not always the easiest thing, but that's, kind of what we strive for and what we rely on each other as well to kind of help us to figure that out along with prayer.
I mean, people do get struck by lightning every year. I mean, there are some. So, that is life, and you have to be, if you have faith, you just have faith that God his will for you is what is done. If his will is that I get struck by lightning, then that's his will be done. I think that's part of the pray, hope, and don't worry. I pray, I hope God's will be done in my life, and I don't worry about it. Whatever it is. And if something like the Chinese rocket falling out of the sky helps remind us of that, then there's a little bit of a blessing in that.
But I think, Joanne, you made the great point that there is an aspect to this that what we don't worry about is the things that are outside of our control. So I shouldn't just go out and say, I'm not going to wear a seatbelt and I'm going to be reckless. And, but I'm just not going to worry. Like, okay, that's kind of taking it to the extreme. Like, no, you be prudent about things. You do things appropriately. But if it's, I'm going to go for a drive and do everything in my power to be safe, and, and I am, say, hit by somebody else that's outside of my control, that's where we just put our faith in God and still go out for a drive anyway, because that we don't have control over.
Yeah, definitely. Good. Excellent. So stuff falling out of the sky. Don't worry about it. It's not going to hit you probably. If it does, let's hope it's the will of God. Let's hope it's God smiting you, and that would be that. No. Anyway. So before we move on to the next segment, I want to thank our patrons. We always want to thank our patrons for their assistance in keeping us going. And this time I want to thank Dan F., Cameron C., Paul J., Jamie N., and Michael L. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue the Secrets of Technology and all the shows at StarQuest. You can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give. And a little preview, folks. The patrons have made it possible for us to create 2 new StarQuest shows that are debuting later this week. Keep an eye out on our social media, facebook.com/StarQuestMedia, our Twitter account @SQPN, our website, sqpn.com. 2 great new shows coming. If you're a fan of the Secrets of Tech, you're probably going to like them both. So keep an eye out for that little preview there. And thank you to the patrons who make that possible. All right, let's move to our headlines. It's another one that a news story you may have heard about. And especially I've heard in the southeast part of the United States, there's been a huge gas shortage. People are talking about, the gas station's running out. If it's like back in the 70s again. We're back in the Carter administration. Gas
again.
lines. So we're running out of gas. And the reason is there's a pipeline that called Colonial Pipeline that supplies, I think, 45% of all jet fuel and gasoline on the East Coast has been taken out, basically, or shut down due to ransomware hackers. And the pipeline runner, the company that runs it, has said that they should have it back up again by the end of this week as we record this, and things should be getting back to normal. But it does highlight to us the vulnerability of our nation's infrastructure to cyber attack. And, it makes you wonder, how are we not securing these things? Why is this vital technology, this vital infrastructure on the internet at all, where an outside group can attack it? Now, there was an interesting twist in the story just this week. The group that claimed responsibility that's behind it have said, we're not connected to any nation state. We're not working for Russia or China. That was some of the speculation, was that some of these hacker groups are actually working for Russia, China, North Korea, and various other nation states against the U.S. And they say, oh, no. In fact, we have a pledge that we are apolitical. We don't attack anything, any societal. We're not creating problems for society. We just want to make money, is what they said. And they won't attack hospitals, nonprofits, educational institutions, etc. Which they're crooks with a heart of gold, apparently. Crooks with a code. So they're not Robin Hood. They're not stealing the money and giving to the poor. That they're keeping the money for themselves. So there's a couple of different aspects of this story, which is interesting. One, the vulnerability that it highlights in the United States infrastructure, and 2, this question of this ransomware and the ongoing problem that they think they're Eastern European at least hacker groups, that these foreign hacker groups have to Americans. Whether it's not all hacker groups are leaving individuals or nonprofits or whatnot alone. Everybody is vulnerable to them. So what do you think of this story that's kind of become an interesting story? Joanne, have you seen a problem getting gasoline in Rhode Island?
Not yet, but I have this thing that every time something hiccups in the gas and oil world, prices go up. And it's the truth. I see it because I travel an hour to work every day, one way every day. So I see the gas prices fluctuate. And yes, I was 16 years old when they had the gas crisis. And I remember sitting in a line for an hour to get gas and to only get 10 gallons.
Yep.
So I remember all that.
When cars were gas guzzlers and 10 gallons got you about 50 miles.
Exactly. And I can't for the life of me, and it could just be my naivete, figure out why we haven't figured out a better system of delivering gas in all this time. I mean, you would think that they would have checks and balances and backups and, all of that. But if a pipeline goes down, it's almost like, oh my gosh, we're all corrupted and now we've all got to stand around with our hands in the air.
Part of the problem is they won't, due to politics, they can't build more pipelines. We saw that with the Keystone pipeline. There are environmental concerns about pipelines. So we get ever more reliant on more older delivery systems, but these systems are not secure. And it's not just pipelines, it's power plants, it's the electrical grids, it's all this stuff. And we are a very technological nation and very dependent on our technology. And if any of these things go down, we're in big trouble.
We're a technological nation, but I think we're behind in how to defend ourselves.
Exactly.
That's the whole thing. I mean, we're great for getting out there and doing these things, but nobody's watching the back door half the time. So these other folks are able to get, and they like us because apparently our systems are weak enough that they can get in.
Right.
And play around.
And we have enough money that they can hold it for ransom.
We'll give it to them.
And I didn't see it in the article, but do you know how they hacked the system?
They haven't said how they got in. Okay. So I think that's a security issue that they don't want to reveal.
Well, so I guess my point with that is that I've seen a lot of these things that end up happening, and it's because the company didn't have their system updated and they didn't have the current, software updates. And so it wasn't necessarily a matter of, the hackers just exploited an unknown vulnerability, but it was they exploited something that was already known and fixed. And then, just through their own negligence, they didn't have things updated.
It had a key piece of technology running Windows XP or something.
Right.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. These corporate folks don't realize, because some of them are not tech savvy, that you have to put the money into keeping your system updated. They're thinking, oh, we bought these computers 5 years ago. They're perfectly fine. They work fine. No, they don't. They need updates.
Right. And frankly, I think churches, to bring this back to something all three of us understand, churches are extremely vulnerable. Dioceses and individual parishes are, I mean, when I worked at the Archdiocese of Boston, I started there in 2007, and I was told they'd only switched from physical accounting books, literal ledgers, within the past 10 years from that. Like they had computerized them within 10 years of that date. I mean, and when I got there in 2007, they were still running Windows XP on their computers. I mean, it was just astounding. And the password and security practices were terrible, probably still are. I could probably still use some of my passwords. I haven't worked for the diocese in, 8 years. I mean, so churches, and I've said this many times, churches need to get better at this because we are all targets. And frankly, churches are targets. The Catholic churches are targets because we have physical vandalism going on at churches across the country because people don't like our message, and it's going to translate to being cyber targeting us, and we need to be better at this. I mean, it's not like we can't have mass if we don't have our computers, but it becomes an issue if we can't get into our records, our financials, all that sort of stuff. But you're right, Joanne. It's not enough just to buy the technology. You have to maintain the technology. And it's more expensive to fix something when things have gone wrong than it is to keep it up to date.
Yep.
And something I always tell churches, please, buy something, a system that you can grow into and not out of in a year.
Yes.
Because they'll buy the bargain basement. Oh, yes, the secretary only needs this. No. You don't understand. In about a year, it'll be obsolete, and she's going to be sitting there going, this thing is so slow. So,
right. Yeah, it's interesting. Like, even a big corporation like Colonial Pipeline, they carry a lot of 2.5 million barrels a day in this pipeline, and they were susceptible. Nuclear power plants and all this other stuff. So we, as a nation and individuals, we have to be better at this. Keep ourselves safe from this nonsense. It's something slightly different. Like I got hit recently. I don't know if I said this on the show. Someone stole my Apple Card number not too long ago, and they racked up like $7,000 in charges. Or no, it's not that, because my credit limit wasn't that high. But they basically used up my entire credit limit for several $1,000s on 3 purchases. There was some miscommunication. I ended up having some trouble getting it taken off, but I eventually did. But what's interesting is with the Apple Card, every time you make a charge, it shows up as a notification on your phone, and including the declines. And I keep seeing declines pop up. I had one just before we started recording. Someone tried to use the old card number at Pizza Hut somewhere for $50. I mean, just seeing these things, and it's like, yeah, I mean, I'm glad it was the Apple Card and not one of my other cards, because the Apple Card is easier to keep secure. Now, I think I know where the number got out, but I think in a future episode I'll have a tip on when to use Apple Card and when not to use Apple Card online, and what ways to keep yourself to do safer financial transactions. Privacy.com is a key aspect of that. I've had that as a pick before. So just all that to say, it's all of our responsibilities to keep ourselves safe. One of the things I was going to mention, speaking of all of our responsibility, is not only could it have been a piece of software or hardware that needed to be updated, it could also be a social engineering attack. It could be an employee, opened up an attachment in an email or clicked on a website that had a malware or Trojan horse, and that was it. And we've got to be smart about these things. We've talked about this a lot on this show. But we've got to not only be smart ourselves, we've got to educate others about security. So anyway, that's my sermon for this week. Let's talk about another perennial headline that we could talk about. And this one is from the New York Post. A boy, 4 years old, accidentally bought $2,600 worth of SpongeBob popsicles on Amazon. Yep. Now, the story doesn't tell us how he did it. Was it on mom's phone? Was he playing on an iPad? It doesn't give us enough details to know exactly what it is. But it's likely to be one of those things where the 4-year-old had been given a device that had the ability to make purchases without a password or any kind of PIN code. And in true New York Post tabloid style, there's lots of puns in it. What did it say? There was a couple of good ones in there. A 4-year-old fanatic from Brooklyn went a little overboard, buying $3,000 worth of non-refundable SpongeBob SquarePants popsicles on Amazon. A friend helped the mom set up a GoFundMe to help cover the chilling cost, so on and so forth. Yeah, there's a lot of dad jokes in this one. It's a frozen treat fiasco. But yeah,
it's very interesting that he sent them to his aunt's house. So this kid kind of knows what to do with this, with how to purchase things.
Yeah. It must be that there was a prior purchase that was sent to his aunt's house or something like that. Like, it's kind of fascinating. I can't think of a 4-year-old being able to do anything all that sophisticated. It's just, it reinforces this idea. We've got to be careful when you're handing technology to kids.
Well, and it kind of brings out the point of how far is too far when we're going for convenience, because the one click purchasing is super convenient. You don't have to put in your password and you don't have to do anything. It's just one click, you're done, but how is that really a good idea to have if you have kids who have access to the same tablet or phone? For me, where I'm the only one who has access to my phone and I don't have kids, it's totally fine. But, we have to kind of balance convenience versus accidental oops like this.
But remember, too, this is Amazon. He doesn't need a phone. All he has to do is invoke the A-Lady and say, I want popsicles, send them to my aunt's address, and the A-Lady would probably do it.
That's true.
But that also brings up, you can turn that off.
Right.
Yes.
You know, so especially if you're a parent and have one of the Amazon Echoes, you may want to turn that off with the kids around.
Yes.
But what you said, convenience. People have that for convenience. Yep. They don't want to type, so they'll just say, "Hey, lady, do this."
Right. Yeah. I don't have that turned on my Echo devices. I mean, and my kids are old enough not to do that, but it frankly, the Echo often enough like mishears things we're saying as it is. I don't want to end up with $5,000 worth of SpongeBob underwear showing up at my house or something. That would be really difficult to explain. So again, these stories come up. It's a nice reminder. Always be careful when you're handing kids technology to be sure that there's no way they can make in-app purchases or make purchases on it. Just be clear. And also look at your Echo. That might be another way he did it. Yeah, that's true. The next story, this is kind of a sad story, is about Snapchat. A court has ruled that Snapchat can be sued. It has a rule that they're responsible. So I want to be clear up front. But it has ruled that it can be sued by a family for its potential or alleged role in the death of 3 young men in a car that was speeding. So apparently what happened is these 3 guys were in a car in Wisconsin, and they were driving at over 120 miles an hour down a road near cornfields. They wanted pictures of them driving fast past cornfields. And Snapchat has this filter where you can show like live speed on it. So when however fast you're going, it shows up. And the family says that speed filter was a gamification or a game that enticed users to be unsafe while driving. And so it's not that Snapchat itself is like the whole app itself was the problem, but this particular aspect of it. And what do you guys think of this? Do you agree with that the gamification of speed with a filter might be partially responsible for what these kids did? I mean, the boys themselves did the driving, so they're mostly responsible, frankly, for their own actions. But is Snapchat at all responsible?
I would say yes to some degree. Something like a speed filter, at least in my mind, that just entices. The whole point of that, or the whole point of filters, is to get seen by more people and to generate more,
more engagement.
And I forget exactly how Snapchat works, because it's not like I don't know if it's you send it to your friends, so I don't know if there's a public sort of view feature. There might be. I don't know. But I'm not on Snapchat.
It gets engagement from their friends.
But right. Yeah. So but the point of the filters, is to increase engagement. And so some of them are completely benign, and it's a filter that says this is my location, or I'm in Hawaii or wherever, or this is what the temperature is, or and those sorts of things. But even that one could be. The problem with them is they encourage the more extreme, because that gets more engagement and more likes or laughs or whatever. And with the speed one, I mean, I don't really know of a point when you would really use that other than trying to just show, you want to show how fast you're going. And so this kind of a situation, now I don't think that that's initially why they were driving the car over 120 miles an hour, but I think it may have added to the let's share this and get engagements. So I think it entices more of that kind of behavior in general.
Yes.
Certain filters.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big hell yes on my meter. Because you're making it look like a game. Now, everybody who listens to this podcast knows I'm not a big gamer, but I do think on this type of a driving game, somewhere there's a speedometer saying how fast you're going and what you're doing, and that feature in Snapchat sounds like it's doing the same thing. We're taking this and here's the speed and this is what they're doing. And kids of that age, these kids were 17, they would have grown up with those types of games. So what's to say, okay, now that I can get behind the wheel of a car, let's mimic the game. So yeah, I think it feeds into that mindset, and yeah, they should be. If they can be sued, do it.
And 17-year-old boys are invulnerable. They think that they're immortal and never going to die.
And it feeds into that whole, the more engagement you get, the more, I mean, it's the more dopamine is released, and so it feeds into that, or in a Facebook analogy, the more likes you get, the more you feel good, if you will. And so the more that you want to do these things that get more likes, and yeah, it is. And that is very game mechanic. That's how a lot of games work, is the games train you that if you accomplish certain things, you're going to get rewards, whether that's in game or dopamine or a mix of the two. And that's even where the microtransactions works, that you can pay them to get the rewards quicker, and Snapchat, I don't think has that necessarily, but it's the same principle, that if I use this filter and it's a higher number on the speedometer, it's likely to get more engagement, which is going to turn into more dopamine and rewards on my end. And yeah, it just kind of causes this reckless behavior.
And all the girls think I'm cool, and
right. Not
all the girls think that's cool. Let me tell you.
But 17-year-old boys think all the girls think that's cool.
Exactly.
And they're making the point, and I can understand this too, that it's not. They're trying to say that it's not Snapchat's fault per se. It's the users who are using it this way. I think Snapchat should do away with these kind of filters that promote reckless behavior. But at the end of the day, too, I don't know if I would put them at fault for someone using their filters in a way that is dangerous.
Yeah, I'm a little mixed on that, because I would think Snapchat knows enough that they want people to use their app, so they're going to put things on it that's appealing. But since we have free choice, free will, it is up to us to use it or not use it. So they could be hiding behind that. Well, we have these things, but people are choosing to use it incorrectly, even though they surely they totally understand that the more filters they have, because that's going to get more engagement on Snapchat and more engagement on their app and get them more revenue.
Somebody sat in a meeting and they said, let's do a speed filter so that, kids get excited and they can put this, they're driving fast, but we would never say that you should drive. In fact, we should definitely say, don't drive fast or do this while you're driving.
Right.
But we should put it on there anyway, because kids will love it. I mean, if they were, well, two things. A, Snapchat knows most of its audience is kids, so it's not really adults that this is aimed at. What stupid adult would do this? But they're immature adults who would do this. But they know that Snapchat knows its primary audience is kids, but also B, they could have put a limit on it so that if your physical speed gets above 65, it stops, and so there's no benefit, there's no enticement to go faster. Yep. But on the other hand, what's the point of the filter? Like, the filter is pointless unless you're going fast. So I think that's the crux of the legal argument. There's no point to this filter except to show extreme speeds.
Right, because nobody wants to share their 1 mile an hour speed.
Yeah,
walking down the road.
I would do it if I'm like, look, I'm stuck in the rush hour traffic and I've been going 2 miles an hour for the past hour.
Yeah, and here's the telling thing: as the 17-year-old behind the wheel accelerated to 123 miles an hour, one of the passengers opened Snapchat. So they waited till they got to an extreme speed, not just, 10 miles over the speed limit.
Yeah. So what this does is it also potentially sets a precedent. So the district court dismissed the lawsuit. The appeals court let it go forward. And that is kind of undercuts the immunity that most social media companies have had under Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act, which they say, we're just a common carrier. We're not responsible for how people use our platform. This says you are responsible. This potentially says you can be responsible if you entice people to use your platform in a particular way. And that's an interesting argument, and that could have repercussions far beyond Snapchat to Facebook and Twitter, frankly. And that would be an interesting place to go and to see. So very interesting. All right. I think that does it for our headlines this week. let's move on to something fun, and let's talk about our picks of the week. Father Andrew, since this is not your usual time, and you're in Father Corey's seat, so I'll let you go first. What's your pick of the week?
So my pick of the week is it's a JBL Clip 3, so it's a Bluetooth waterproof speaker. And so this is my pick. Well, first of all, because it's coming up on summer and people are going to be outside. And what's nice about this Bluetooth waterproof speaker is that it's small. It's maybe, I don't know, maybe 6 to 8 inches in diameter. It's a kind of a little circle, and it's got a carabiner clip on it. So you can just clip it to your backpack and take it with you wherever you're going. If you're going to the beach or the pool or wherever, it's really handy. And so it's Bluetooth, connects to your phone. You can stream your music. You can stream your favorite podcasts to it as you're out and about. And one of the other main reasons that I use it is I hook it up in my shower. So I like to have music as I'm in the shower. So it's kind of a fun way to just either listen to something or listen to music or wherever. So it's super handy. I think it's about $60 or $70 for this particular one. But it's a pretty neat device, and I've had it for quite some time.
It looks like Amazon has them as a refurbs for as low as $45 too, so you can get
there you go.
Yeah.
My husband would shoot me if I put one of these in the shower, but boy, is this tempting, because it's very hard because I too like to hear music in the shower, and it's tough when you have a speaker across the room and you're jacking it up so high so you can hear it. That's a great idea.
And my cousin, when I was a kid, we would go visit them, and she had this FM waterproof radio in their shower.
I remember those.
Yeah.
And I thought it was the coolest thing ever, because we didn't have one of those at home. So this is sort of an evolution of that. And, and perhaps it would work well if someone has a bathtub and they're wanting to soak and to have some gentle, calming music play, good for that too. So
JBL has a lot of cool, good Bluetooth speakers of various kinds. I have the JBL Boombox, which I got as a review unit a while ago. And I tell you, whenever I have to grill, for dinner, I take it outside and I listen to music out there. It can get really loud. My neighbors would not appreciate that if I turned it way up, but it's portable. It's a 21st century boombox. I mean, those, I remember them from when I was a kid. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Awesome. Good pick. Joanne, what's your pick this week?
Well, I'm going back to my cutting the cord streaming roots, and putting up for your enjoyment or disdain, Discovery Plus. Now, Discovery Plus is a new streaming service that takes all of those channels that you don't want to admit you're watching. HGTV, Food Network, Lifetime, and it puts them on one streaming service. Now, since these things show up in other streaming services, why would you want to spend another $6.99 a month? Because that's the one without the ads. Here's the reason. Because what I started to notice both on cable and on YouTube TV, which is my main streaming source at this point, they're showing the same episodes over and over again. Like if I see this one episode of Dr. Pimple Popper for the 9th time, I'm going to scream. What they do on Discovery is they have every season. So you've got about 37 of them of Chopped. But you can watch any one you want at any time. And they're also putting together nonstop 24/7 channels of the Property Brothers, or The Deadliest Catch. If you want to watch just that particular show, it's on a loop. It's on 24/7. So we have found that we're watching those Discovery channels more on Discovery Plus than we would be on YouTube TV. So that started to make us shift a little. Do we really need all that money in YouTube TV? And this is what happens when you're a cord cutter. You end up, because you can move around so much, you can say, I like this combination better. This is working for us right now. So I think for $6.99 for no ads, and you can get everything from Oprah Winfrey to Magnolia, the Fixer Upper folks, I think it's not a bad deal. Yeah, it really isn't.
If this is the sort of stuff you watch on cable, this would be the HGTV, Food Network, TLC, Animal Planet, Discovery. A&E, DIY Network, Travel. Yeah.
I think History Channel's on there too.
Yes, it is.
Because I looked up the Skinwalker Ranch episodes.
New season.
Are they coming out with a new season?
Oh, the new season started. So the second episode just dropped. Yeah.
Okay.
And it has all the Discovery channels because there's 3 different Discovery ones. So you can't get some of your favorites on regular Discovery. It's on Discovery Family and Life, or it's on, I love the way they've chopped all this stuff up. And they have a couple of originals that are really funny. So I that's the one that has I think I brought it up in a previous episode, the comedians on couches watching House Hunters.
Oh, wow.
Uncensored.
Yes. Right.
That's hysterical.
I would also throw out, so I have Discovery Plus, so I totally am on board with this, and I do watch like Love It or List It on HGTV, and so I love some of those kind of shows, but I also love the Food Network. So there's a show out there called Good Eats with Alton Brown.
Yes.
His newest season is exclusive to Discovery Plus.
Right.
Yes.
So that helps. But one of the things that I wanted to point out was that the reason that I got Discovery Plus is because I have a Verizon Unlimited plan. And I got there is, if you have a Verizon Unlimited plan, there's certain of those plans that you get Discovery Plus free with it. So if you're at all interested and you have a Verizon Unlimited plan, check into that, because I'm not paying for Discovery Plus right now. And that was what got me to jump into it. And yeah, I kind of like it.
I've been very tempted, to be honest. There's certain things I like to watch, and it's sometimes you're sitting down like, I don't want to watch Netflix tonight or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like, I just want some mindless entertainment. Show me a bunch of episodes of people fixing up homes. Just,
You don't want the emotional investment of a drama.
Right.
Or I want to feel like I'm sitting in my doctor's office's waiting room and watch like 7 episodes of The Property Brothers in a row while I'm waiting for my doctor to show up. But that's never happened. Yeah, that's I gotta be honest. I've been very tempted by this, both for Good Eats and Mike Rowe's 6 Degrees, which are both exclusives.
Mm-hmm.
I think you'll enjoy it.
Yeah,
I
would agree.
There's another $7 in my budget. I'll find it from somewhere else. I'll cancel something else. Good. Well, that's great. Thanks, Joanne. My wallet thanks you too. And so from something that costs money to something that's free, I have something. This is a little off the beaten path. A little off. It takes a little explanation. It's a Mac app called Obsidian, and it's a personal, how do I describe it? It's almost like a personal wiki or a personal knowledge operating system, like they almost call it, like a personal operating system. I don't know. What it is it's an app that gives you text documents that you can link together using a markup language called Markdown. It sounds very complicated, but it's not. So what it is basically you have lots of information that you got to keep track of. I have lots of information I have to keep track of on a regular basis. And a lot of times this information is linked to each other, to the other information in various ways. So for example, I've got StarQuest podcasts. And so I've got Father Andrew, you're on several different StarQuest podcasts. And so when I'm talking about if I need to record some information about Secrets of Star Wars, and then I want to link it to you so that if I need to find out everything, I know I talked to Father Andrew about something with one of our shows, I can find all the stuff I've ever recorded about you in relation to all the various shows, and there are links between them. So as I'm writing in this document, it will link common information, just like in a wiki. So if I put 2 square brackets around a name or a person's name or the name of a show or any information, it will automatically create links. It's kind of hard to describe, so you have to kind of download it to try it. But what I'm using it for is I've started keeping a daily work journal. And what that does is it helps me keep track of everything I do each day related to the job, so that I have a record of, okay, I talked to Jimmy Aiken on this day about this aspect of Mysterious World, and then I talked to Victor Lambs about editing these 2 shows, Secrets of Doctor Who, Secrets of Star Trek, and it allows me to keep very close track of all the things I've done, so I don't forget things. This is my biggest thing, is if I don't write it down, I don't remember it. In some ways, it does a little of what Evernote has always done for me. So Evernote is a way of creating individual notes or individual documents where I can record things, but Evernote doesn't link documents as easily as Obsidian does. Obsidian is built to link things. The other thing, the advantage that Obsidian has is that all of the documents are plain text. If Obsidian goes away tomorrow, I have a bunch of plain text documents on my computer in a folder that I can open up in any text program. And that can't say the same for Evernote. That's just not the way Evernote works. So there are several YouTube channels where people explain how Obsidian works. There's a good Discord for the Obsidian community, but I'm not saying this for everyone, but I've really, after a lot of hemming and hawing about should I add another thing to my personal workflow, I added it, I tried it out, and I've been using it for nearly a month now, and it really has helped me keep track of things even better than I was before. And so it might be something you want to check out. So it's at obsidian.md.
I like their motto or their catchphrase or whatever you want to call it. A second brain for you forever is what they're saying it is.
Right. Exactly. It's my second brain. It's my offloading brain so that I don't forget things. I always said that about Evernote and Obsidian. The reason it took me so long to switch to Obsidian, or not to switch, but to add Obsidian, was I always thought, well, I've already got Evernote. Why do I need Obsidian? But I'm using them for two different things. And so that's a big part of it. But yeah. All right. And then in the future, I've got some way, I'll maybe have some tips and things for how I use it and link things to it. But that's for some future episodes. But for now, I think that should do it for us. So if you have any feedback for us on anything we've talked about today, we would love to hear from you. You can go and comment at sqpn.com/technology or the SQPN Facebook page, facebook.com/StarQuestMedia, or send an email to technology@sqpn.com. And you'll find links from our discussion and our picks of the week on our show notes at sqpn.com. And here's something new. Join the StarQuest fan club mailing list by texting StarQuest to 66866. That's StarQuest to 66866. You'll join our newsletter, and you'll be among the first people to know about our two new podcasts that are starting this week that I'm sure that you'll want to subscribe to. So, StarQuest to 66866. Until next time, Father Andrew Kinstetter, thank you for joining me and sharing the secrets of technology.
Thank you, Dom.
Joanne Mercier, thank you as well.
Thanks, Dom.
And once again, I'm Dom Bettinelli. Thank you for listening to The Secrets of Technology on StarQuest.